Hello and welcome to a webinar from Linköping University. Today we're going to talk about one of our master programs in intelligent transport systems and logistics. I'm Karina Sjöberg, working at International Student Recruitment, and I'm here today with two representatives from the program. They'll introduce themselves shortly. First of all, some practicalities. There are two parts in this webinar. The first one is recorded and contains a general conversation on the program, its background, what is relevant to know as a student, etc. And this will be recorded and available on our website, as well as on YouTube. Secondly, there is a Q&A live section after about 20-25 minutes for those of you attending live. So please wait till then to put your questions in the Q&A box. So once again, very welcome. So I have some representatives from the program here. Nice to see you. So you would maybe like to introduce yourself. Should you start?
Yeah. Hello. My name is David Gunjord. I'm an associate professor at the Division of Communication and Transport Systems. I'm responsible for a research area called the Transport Analytics, and I'm also the coordinator of the program here today.
And I'm Obini Vitanachi. I'm from Sri Lanka, and I'm a second year student in the program Intelligent Transport Systems and Logistics.
So David, what is the background to the program?
Yeah. So if we start from the beginning,
Yeah.
Transport and mobility is fundamental for our society. This enables us to trade. It enables us to go to work. It gives us access to healthcare. It enables us to socialize, things like that. So we cannot be without it. There's even research that connects mobility to happiness. So it's impossible to be without. However, there are also negative effects from transport and mobility. We have congestion, we have pollution, we have accidents, things like that. And traditionally have solved this by building more roads, for example, but this is not possible today. We have a global problem with the climate change. We also have global trends like urbanization that makes this impossible to tackle the problems like this anymore. And we also have a lot of changes in the transport systems today. We have electrification, we have automation, we have changes in how we use e-commerce, we have mobility as a service coming up. And these changes are transport systems fundamentally. So we need to make our transport systems more efficient and sustainable. And the question is, how do we do that? Well, there are also new tools coming up. And tools like digitalization, big data, AI, machine learning, those are the things that we want to utilize to make these transport systems more efficient. And that is what we focus on in this program.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say sets it apart from other similar programs? If I were to choose from other countries or other programs in Sweden?
Yeah, one unique thing with this program is that we focus on quantitative methods, advanced technology to improve the transport and mobility systems. Other programs typically have focus on the theory for transports maybe, or the technology itself, but here we actually look at the intersection between these two, and this is kind of unique.
And what is the aim of the program?
Well, the aim is to educate or foster students that can utilize this new technology that we talked about, AI, machine learning, digitalization, to make our transport and mobility systems more efficient.
Thank you. So maybe we should have a first look at the curriculum.
Yeah.
Let's see if my colleague Luke can... Yes, there it is. Could you say a few words?
Yes, this is how the program looks like. It's divided into 3 semesters of courses, and then you have the final semester as a master thesis. The first semester is we have students with diverse backgrounds coming to this program. So this is kind of setting, for example, we work with programming, introduction to programming. We work with some introduction to math. And we also have introduction to transport and logistics. And this is, if you come from a very technical bachelor, you might think that the programming is a bit easier, but then the transport courses can be a bit more challenging maybe. So the first semester is to get all these basic tools that you need, make sure that they are, you have good knowledge of those. And then we start going into the tools as well. We have the data analytics course that you see there. It's the first course on machine learning that you have, trying to utilize this data that we talked about to improve the systems. And then we also have traffic safety, which is an important part of all transport systems today. So that's the first semester. In the second and third semester, we have two profiles. So the top level courses there, on the first row or top row, and that's related to the traffic profile. And then the middle row, that's related to our logistics profile. And then we have also other courses that connects this, related to, for example, mobile communication, that is important to get share data between different parts of the system. Yeah, and then in the last semester you also have elective courses, a little bit more to choose from.
May I ask something? When it comes to these two options, can I choose totally freely, or do you have to have a certain number in order to get the profile started?
Yes, the green or blue, or depending on which screen you look at, colors of the courses, those are mandatory courses. So it's one, the whole first semester is mandatory, but then you also have one mandatory course in traffic, and then one mandatory course in logistics, so you get a small part of both profiles, so to speak. But then you can also choose a bit more.
And what about links to industry? I see some project management in the curriculum.
Yeah, that's an important part, and that's in Sweden we work a lot in projects, so it's important to have this component. This is also what this is mandatory, that you learn how to work in projects. And you will also work a lot with projects, both in courses and in dedicated project management courses like this. But it's also the one that says analysis of transport systems. That's also a project-based course. In that course you work with research groups or researchers that has problems that you help solve. But then in the master thesis you typically can decide whether you want to do research-oriented or industry-oriented. And then we have collaborations with companies to get a thesis started.
Lovely. And Avini, you've been here now at least 1.5 years. What does a typical week look like?
Okay, so the typical week looks like most of the times we have lectures, and we also get time for self-study as well. The main difference I see here in Linköping University compared to my bachelor's is I used to have a lot of lectures all day, every day, but here you only have 3 or maybe 4 lectures per week. You might feel like you have a lot of free time, but
Do you?
I felt that, but I think that free time you should use wisely to allocate or manage to work on your self-studies, because otherwise you will end up being stressed when you're towards a deadline. So that free time is for you to study more, because we only have very few number of lectures in a week. So, and also these lectures, there are few types of there are few lecture types. You also get the regular lectures that you go sit and listen to your teacher, and also there's this seminars and also laboratory work that you work on real life projects.
David, when it comes to workload, what would you say?
I agree there, because we work a lot with active learning, which means that the students are responsible and also active in learning the things. It all depends on what kind of background you have. But we work with projects, labs, and that's not scheduled typically. We count on students to work a lot outside these hours to actually learn in more detail.
And what I've heard also when it comes to project works, it tends to take a lot more time than you expected, because you have to discuss and agree on everything that you put forward, and so in your writing.
And that's a good practice for work life.
Yes.
Exactly.
You're so right. So, you also said you had labs.
Yes.
Can you say a few words about that?
So most of the lab work is related with some kind of a software, for instance simulation softwares. So we get assignments like a real world problem where we have to solve it using these softwares, like the simulation softwares, or it can also be programming laboratories, but most of the times we will work with a lot of different softwares in these lab works.
During your first year, did you notice with your classmates that you all had some common challenges?
Exactly. Talking about these lab works and programming skills, for my background is mostly about theoretical parts and management of transportation. So programming was indeed a big challenge for me in the beginning. However, as David mentioned, we also have some programming basics courses in the first semester. Yeah. So you will be able to slowly catch up with it, and also you will have to work by your own in order to improve your programming skills. That is one thing I noticed within my classroom.
Yeah. And now we are approaching December, and you mentioned something also about how you, coming from Sri Lanka, you had some difficulties with the fact that we have four semesters, 4 seasons is the words I'm looking for. 4 seasons, yeah. Yes. Could you develop?
Exactly. So Sri Lanka is a tropical country. You have sun all day, and coming from Sri Lanka to Sweden was a huge change, and it was a big challenge for me. I expected winter, but I didn't know how to exactly face it. So there's a small, like, how do you say, a chance that you can slowly get used to it, because you are coming on August and you have some time to get used to it. Anyways, like you need to have better clothing and good mindset, of course. And with that, I was able to pass my winter okay. Now that I'm here more than 1 year, I feel like having seasons is not bad at all. Like it's really fascinating, it's different, but now I love it so much.
Thanks. So you're in your 3rd semester and you're about to start your thesis project in a few weeks, actually. So when did you start looking for a master thesis project? Was it hard?
So I had this passion or my preferred area in my mind. So I was, when I feel like I'm coming near to the start of my master's thesis, I spoke with David regarding my preference, and he directed me to a supervisor who is already working on that preferred area. And I went to him and I spoke with him, and that's how I finalized my master's thesis. And another thing is, as David mentioned earlier, we also have this course in the 3rd semester where it looks like a mini thesis, where you will get an experience on how to start your master's thesis, or how to do it in a very short period, like in a compact period. So with that also you get the experience on how to work on that, and yeah, that's how I finalized my thesis topic.
Okay, great to hear. So when we talk to our prospective students, of course we have a target student in mind. David, could you develop a bit on that, please?
Yes, and actually we welcome students from many different backgrounds. So the first semester we kind of bring the students together. And you might have challenges with different parts, as Avini mentioned here. But you can come from computer science, electrical engineering, industrial engineering, civil engineering. What we require is the math requirements, for example, that are for the admission. But it's also good to have some kind of interest in math, and also in programming. At least have seen some programming of some kind before. That's a good thing to start, so you don't start from scratch. Otherwise,
is there any language in particular that
No.
is more basic or better to know, or
no
matter.
It's enough that you have seen it and feel that you can work with it.
Yep.
Then it's fine.
And English, yes, that's also a prerequisite. Could you add something maybe even when it comes to the English? What have you noticed in the classroom?
Yeah, so when it comes to English, the whole syllabus, everything here is taught in English, and you need to have this certain level of English where you would be able to communicate with your teachers, and also in seminars and in situations that you want to discuss the study matters and your ideas with your teachers and your colleagues, you really need to have this specific level of English in order to communicate with each other and express your ideas. And that is a help for you to come up with your good ideas, and also mingle with each other in the classroom. So it is indeed a very specific and very required thing in our course.
Yeah.
I can also add a comment there that research groups in Sweden, they are very international, so there's always people from different parts of the world, and most of the work is done in English. So teachers are always used to communicating and talking in English.
Yeah, and also I guess if you continue working in an international company, often the main language is English as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said being active in the classroom is important. Yes. So you should be able to communicate, present your ideas, and be active. And also kind of independent, so that you realize that you have to be driven yourself by a self-interest in the area. This will not be chewed for you beforehand by your teacher. You will be able to, or have to be able to analyze it yourself. So it's actually a step up, going from bachelor level to master level. It is an analytical step. It is a step when it comes to the amount of text you should be able to handle, as far as I know.
I can also comment that I usually say that, you are the project manager of your studies, which kind of, that gives a good idea about what this is about.
Yeah. So how many hours per week do you expect a student to be actually working?
Well, we design our courses and the program according to full-time work, which is 40 hours per week or something like that. It depends. You could have more. It might require more, and it might require less, but on average 40 hours per week, so full-time.
Yeah. And usually when it comes to project work, from experience as well, it tends to take a lot more than 40 hours a week. Project work is not to be underestimated. Definitely not. So you can read a bit also about our social life, student life online on our international bloggers, on Instagram and on Facebook, of course. But Evini, talking about student life, what's it like living in Norrköping?
So about Norrköping, it is one of the most beautiful cities I've seen in Sweden, and I'm saying that because it's a city, but you have this city vibe. At the same time, you get to enjoy nature at its fullest. You have this beautiful river going through it, and I love it. And about the student life, so you will, as a student in Linköping University, you will get opportunities to join associations and student societies, for instance, the International Student Association, and you will also get opportunities to participate in the events that they are organizing, so that you will be able to meet new friends from different diversity backgrounds and who speak different languages and who cook different, and you will be able to meet people like this all the time if you join and participate in these events. And another unpopular opinion, if you are living in a corridor room, that is also another good way to find new people and mingle with them. And you will be able to have very good time with people here.
And you yourself, do you do anything in particular on your spare time?
I of course have many like friends here, and also I love to read, so I use the library. I spend my spare time reading and also going out and having fun with my friends.
And so, are there any useful tips, anything you wish you had known before coming here that you'd like to share with the prospective students?
Yes, one thing is about accommodation. You have to register for your accommodation like housing companies beforehand, so that you will have enough queue points by the time you are applying for a housing. Another thing is you need to apply for your person number when you come here. So be prepared with your documents and all the other things. Everything is mentioned in the the respective websites. Be prepared with the documents and other required stuff. And also about the winter again, you need to be prepared with good clothes and like boots, jackets and stuff. That I would say.
And I may say that there are a lot of second-hand shops, especially for winter clothes.
Exactly.
So don't bring your own. I think it's better to buy it here, especially if you come from a tropical country or a country where it's very, very hot. And another thing, I know that some master students, they try to juggle both part-time working and studies at the same time. Have you got any experience from that?
I personally do not have experience of managing both studies and work at the same time. Personally, I find it very difficult because as we all already mentioned, you might feel like you have a lot of free time, but you are not, because you need to spend that time on your project work, on your coursework, and you are always busy with the work. So I feel like if you divide your focus onto another perspective, like work or some other thing like that, it will be harder for you to focus focus mainly on your academics. So I found it a bit hard, and I personally feel like you will end up losing focus on academics if you work.
Yeah, I think you're so right about that. Do you have anything to add on that particular topic, David?
I agree. It's really tough to do that. It's also not easy to find jobs.
No, that's so true.
But even if you would, it's really tough to have them together. It's nothing. There are no rules against it, but it's really, really tough. One should be aware of that.
So now we are approaching the end of this first part, so thanks a lot for watching. I hope you've got some answers, and if not, you are very welcome to the second part, where you have the possibility to ask us some questions in the Q&A section. So please do so, and thanks a lot again for watching.